we've been beaten up as fans, quite frankly. And I don't know how much patience people really should have. I guess that's not for me to say. I sort of know the level of patience I have. I can take a step back now that a little time has passed and say, okay, still understanding that they're working in a bunch of new things, but I don't blame anyone for being irate. The way they lost that game, to find another way to lose a game in which they had the lead, and you tweeted that stat after the game about all the fourth quarter leads they've blown. We've been beaten down for way too long I think for anybody to be like, oh, take a deep breath, calm down, let's take a step back. I don't expect fans to be able to do that.
I don't either. And even with a new coaching staff, a new regime, new players around Caleb Williams, I get it. And I think it's the PTSD element where I started noticing those boos ringing out pretty much in unison. After that second touchdown of the fourth quarter, second of the three that J.J. McCarthy led, it was like, all right, here we go again. Like the same song and dance. And the text that I was getting from friends who are fans, from people I know watching the game was same old Bears. And I know that that's a tough pill to swallow when you've been sold all off season long that this is going to be different. And it had every chance to be different. They were up 17-6, and to not be able to shut the door on an opponent when you had all the tools to do so and the right situation to do so in the game, it just feels like another wasted opportunity. And I thought, like, what Joe Buck was saying there, they're going to be wondering how this happened. It felt like whiplash. It's like you were in control of this game for the majority of the game until you weren't, and it happened so quickly in that stretch in the fourth quarter where they missed the field goal. Minnesota gets the ball back, scores pretty quickly after that, and then to rattle off 3 straight touchdowns. It's like, what the heck hit you? I can imagine for fans watching that, it was probably like a feeling of being kind of a stunning feeling that you're sitting there being like, how did this just happen? They just had the lead, a couple minutes ago to the point where they did it, and then they were chasing those 3 points they could have had in the second quarter at the end of the game.
It'll be interesting to hear the press conferences today. So we haven't done that yet. Who knows what Ben Johnson's going to say about, looking back again and getting ready for this next one. But how do we evaluate Caleb's performance? It wasn't all terrible. It really wasn't. And I don't mean to insinuate that, and I'm sorry if I did yesterday. I think we were just all a little bit on tilt and a little bit on edge and frustrated. It wasn't all terrible, but there's enough that wasn't good that looked like last year across a different regime that, I don't know, it makes you think, like, okay, when is he going to start to get this, I guess?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair, Carm. Like, when he reverts back to form, I don't want to call it regression, but when he reverts back to bad habits, it shows you a couple of things. A, bad habits as a quarterback in the NFL are really hard to break because that's what he's known for the better part of his football career. That when things get murky or when he thinks it looks murky, eject from the pocket, scramble around, try to make a throw downfield, and more times than not, those throws that we saw on Monday were not accurate. And then it kind of felt like I think Ben said this yesterday, when it rains, it pours, like the stale drive that they had in the third quarter. It's offensive holding on Darnell Wright, which I know we can scream about this till we're blue in the face. It's a questionable hold. The fact that he fell down on top of the guy.
No, it wasn't a hold at all. That was a terrible call by the official.
It was a bad call, but he didn't sell it exactly well.
It was horrific. It was a horrific call. Terrible call.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both of you on that, but I'm just saying that that's one thing that led to another thing, which was the overthrow to Cole Kmet, which then led to the intentional grounding, which then led to the 50-yard field goal. When stuff like that happens, the snowball effect, it's hard to recover. And so with Caleb, that snowball effect began in the third quarter. 3 straight incompletions. Every single one of those throws was off target. And sometimes I feel like when he gets in ruts like that, he reverts back to what he knows, and what he knows isn't going to help him in the NFL. It might have done it in college. It will not at this level.
Yeah. I thought we addressed the interior of the offensive line during the offseason and free agency with the trade of 73 and getting Dahlman in here. Unfortunately for the Chicago Bears and Chicago Bears fans, they were the 2 worst offensive linemen this past weekend. What has happened with the inability of these guys in the middle to be able to play solid NFL football?
Well, I do think, and to play devil's advocate here, Minnesota upgraded the interior of their defensive line. Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, those are 2 really good players who I think were honestly more effective than, we didn't hear Andrew Van Ginkel's name until late in the game. Jonathan Grenard, to the Bears' credit, was mitigated for a big portion of that game because they were living in max protection on the Braxton Jones side of the line. I know that it does feel like that was a weaker spot, but I guess the solace that you take in what you saw is that for 3 quarters, the offensive line wasn't that big of a problem. Caleb wasn't sacked until the 4th quarter. That it only happened one other time in his young NFL career, which was Detroit last year. Like, he went most of the game without a sack. And I think that shows a sign of improvement, but it's also, the 2 big acquisitions that you had, the center quarterback connection. I know that's something we've talked about. It wasn't much of an issue during training camp, but certainly feels now like, okay, maybe that's something that they look at and they find out what the issue was there, see what the communication, that was a problem. I don't know if I put that as much on the offensive line, though. Like, of big picture issues that come out of this game, that was a little further down my priority list than some of the other. Like, I don't blame that. I do not blame them for the inaccuracy issues of the quarterback. Like, full stop.
That's fair. Okay, True Fan Travel and ESPN Chicago are teaming up for the ultimate fan getaway to Sin City. That's right. We're going to see the Bears take on the Raiders in Vegas at the end of September. It's going to be great.
What do you get? Round trip airfare. You get a 3-night stay at Mandalay Bay. You got special live broadcasts of all the fellas. We're going to be there, guys. It's going to be Friday. It's going to be Saturday. It's going to be all the stuff on Sunday. It's going to be fantastic. You get to meet the ESPN Radio Chicago 1000 team, all-inclusive tailgate with all the bells and the whistles. Tickets to the Bears-Raiders game, which is probably the most important thing in the world, and there's more to come.
All right, spots are limited, so do not wait. Reserve your spot today at truefantravel.com.
Boom.
That is fair. Do they get healthy here? Like Gordon, Johnson, obviously, T.J. Edwards. Yeah, I didn't even bring up T.J. Edwards. And Sewell held his own for a little while, but you could see the difference. Obviously, there's a drop-off. Are they going to get healthy? What should we expect about some of these key defensive injuries?
So TJ went through a pretty extensive warm-up, and it was, I know he was doubtful going into the game. I didn't expect him to play even after seeing that. It was about 30 minutes, and he was cutting, he was moving. He looked like he was trending in the right direction. So I'd imagine another week of that, and then he'll be good to go for Sunday. But we won't see practice out there until tomorrow because they're just doing a walkthrough today. With Jalen, with Kyler, what Ben said with Kyler yesterday is that he showed up on Sunday when they were, coming into the building for meetings, and he reported some tightness. So he had the hamstring injury. He wasn't on the injury report, and then something probably crept up from that Saturday practice that affected him there. So I think it's one to monitor because, again, it's what have we talked about with that injury specifically? It's the flare-ups. It's the, you think it's gone, and then you tweak something, and then you have it again. So that's one certainly they're going to have to monitor. And I think with Jalen Johnson, the fact that he went through practice last week, he was limited. He went through a pretty extensive warm-up again, did not end up playing. I think he probably needs another week, like this week of practice. And I can't imagine he's going to be out much longer because he has missed a lot of time, which means he's had a lot of time to work on his own, to heal up his body, and to get to a point where he's going to be able to play.
The kick at the end and not being able to get it through. Obviously, Ben Johnson has talked about what the plan was. Apparently, he asked Cairo Santos. Maybe he shouldn't have trusted him. And I wonder if anybody else on that coaching staff, including Richard Hightower, in the moment was saying, if there's any question at all, we can't mess with this. And this is why I really don't get this, and I'm going to keep belaboring this point. If there was any doubt at all, you had to kick that ball out of bounds. You had to. And they didn't do that. And he didn't come close to getting that ball through the end zone. To me, that's a coaching thing that can't be overlooked, and I thought they'd be better prepared for that. I'm sorry. Saying that, I asked the player and he said he could do it. How are they not aware that might be an issue with the player they've had for the last couple of years? I find that to be unacceptable.
Miss a 50-yard field goal. Like that is an elementary example of KYP. Yeah. Know your personnel. He couldn't do it. You think he's going to send it off the tee 76 yards? Really?
I'm with you, Courtney. I don't get it.
The whole thing with his leg strength, because they were making such a big deal out of it when he hit that 57-yarder in the Miami preseason game. And there were no conditions. It wasn't like it was in the rain. It wasn't like it was that windy at that time at Soldier Field. This is something with Cairo Santos that has become a talking point in a not so good way, because we've talked about Talked about it in the Green Bay game last year with the block. Talked about it against Minnesota the week after with another block. Like, I think a leg strength conversation is something that's very valid to have around this kicker. And yes, he's accurate. He was 8 of 9 on 50-yard or longer field goals last year. But they become so routine. Like, I was covering the Jets and Steelers game. I was doing radio for that game on Sunday. And they kick a 60-yard field goal, which ended up becoming like the go-ahead score. Like, that is such a routine thing. You can't miss 50-yard field goals in today's NFL. You can't. And I think that knowing what you saw there, and that was a rookie head coach mistake, to not have the situation right, to know if you just kick it out of bounds, like, there's no runoff there because it's, the situation of the game. It goes to the 40-yard line. You don't really care about the penalty yardage.
No.
You care more about the clock.
Yes.
You didn't have the timeout from earlier in the game, and Ben said it yesterday. He lamented that challenge. It wasn't a good one. He's got to listen to the people upstairs who are probably, if you can deduce what he was saying, we're telling him not to go for it, not to throw the flag.
Oh,
you needed that timeout.
Geez.
You needed that timeout, and since you didn't have it, you needed to use the 2-minute warning as a pseudo timeout instead. That's a mismanagement of the clock that reflects not so well on the head coach, and everybody has them. Obviously, it's his first game. It's a situation where a lot of things you would imagine you won't see an issue like that again. But it's absolutely something that's worth bringing up as a big reason why they put themselves in a bind there with 9 seconds left.
I guess you're right. I can give a little bit of a break here and say it's the first time. Okay. I'll give a little bit of benefit of the doubt. It better not happen again. And maybe he learned a valuable lesson, Courtney. And I wonder if you gave him the truth serum. He's probably saying, yeah, what the hell were we thinking? We should have absolutely kicked that ball out of bounds. You nailed it. The 5 yards at that point matters.
You don't care about that.
Doesn't matter.
Like, because either way, they're going to win the game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's the clock that you are more concerned about. And, there's a couple things we look at with this game, like big picture stuff. Why did they lose the game? Well, Caleb goes from being 13 of 16 in the first half to having the worst off-target percentage of any quarterback in the NFL in week 1 by the end of the game. That's obviously a big thing. 12 penalties for 127 yards, a big thing. But then the small moments that added up to the big picture, the 4th and 3 that they couldn't hit, the 39 seconds at the end of the third quarter, the missed field goal, the botch situation clock management wise, the blocked punt, we didn't even talk about that. Those are things that when Ben Johnson, stickler of the details, talks about the small details add up to the big thing. Prime example is this game and how they lost it. It wasn't just the 2 things we mentioned. It's all the small things that added up to hurting them, killing them on possessions, taking possessions away from them effectively, and ultimately chasing points that they needed, that they could have had at the end of the game.
Okay. Anything else we should know for this week?
So DJ Moore, I know a lot of people have been asking, is he okay? Like, he went back in the game. He looked kind of rattled there after he got hit on the second to last play. Ben Johnson said at the time we talked to him yesterday that he had, just kind of texting back and forth with him. He said he sounded okay, but they didn't have the injury report at that time. So just something to monitor there. Obviously, he doesn't miss time. He's a very durable player, but that was a pretty heavy hit that he took at the end of the game. So one to monitor.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, there's Courtney Cronin at Courtney R. Cronin on X. Make sure you follow her, and she's brought to you by Coast